Nastara, and thank you all for joining today's first ever Taza Talks Sustainability. Sizik here in Starlight Ata. I am a member of the Tsuut'ina Nation, and I am also the Communications and Marketing Manager at Taza Development Corps. And today I will be moderating our event. Sustainability has become a popular topic of discussion for many years. Today, we want to join in that discussion and how it relates back to development planning and more specifically to TAZAA. So joining us today is Dan Van Leeuwen, Caroline Bordeaux, Jacob Crane, Joanne Sawatsky, and James Brown. And I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to each of our panelists so you guys are familiar with who they are, what their role is in the project, and how they're involved with TAZAA. So Dan Van Leeuwen joined Canderel in May 2017 as a Managing Director of Development based in Calgary, Alberta. He is primarily responsible for all aspects of the development process, strategic planning, key hires and team building, acquisitions and negotiations on real estate development. Dan works closely with the CEO and oversees the day-to-day management of the Taza Development project, from project planning and financial structuring through infrastructure and vertical development construction, as well as the closeout of land leases. Caroline Bordeaux is with Canderel, and she's the Director, Sustainability, Impact, and Engagement Practice at Canderel Group. This role, Caroline acts as the company's national expert on sustainability and corporate social responsibility, overseeing corporate strategy and providing support to property management of development teams. In 2018, she was elected to Canada Green Building Council's Board of Directors to represent real estate owners and developers. Jacob Crane is a citizen of the Tsuut'ina Nation, located in the province of Alberta, Canada. He is currently the Executive Director of the SLC Air Protectors, a nonprofit organization dedicated to serving Indigenous people, and is the Board Secretary for the Urban Indian Center of Salt Lake. As a social entrepreneur, Jacob enjoys building startup companies that positively impact Native communities. Like many, he wishes to see more conscious tribal investment for future generations that also creates platforms to build stronger, robust Indigenous economies. Joanne Sawatsky is an accomplished sustainability consultant with 20 plus years of experience in energy efficient and green buildings. As Lighthouse's Managing Director of Regenerative Built Environment Services, Joanne leads the Lighthouse Regenerative team, providing technical expertise on lighthouse projects. Her experience extends to a variety of green building rating systems, starting her career before LEED came to Canada. With a background in building science, Joanne is especially familiar with the construction of building systems, materials, and assemblies. Although she enjoys getting into the details, Joanne identifies success when she is able to guide projects to unlock their big underlying sustainability goals and support them in achieving these goals. Overall, her wish is to make a difference that will nurture both human and environmental health in this world. James Brown is a partner in Zeidler Architecture with over 25 years of experience in a wide variety of high-profile cultural, civic, urban design, and institutional projects. Zeidler Architecture is a leading Canadian architectural practice with a long history of award-winning architecture and urban design that fosters social engagement, facilitates excellence, and delivering enduring value. James has been actively involved for the last 3 years in the design guidelines, master planning, urban, and architecture design for TAZAA. Thank you everybody for coming. Really want to welcome you all, and I appreciate you all being part of our panel today.
Great to be here.
Good to be here.
All right.
Good to be here.
So before we dive in, I believe it's important to make sure that our attendees are familiar with one of the terms that will be brought up frequently, and that is the use of the design guidelines. The design guidelines is a 600-page resource that was created through TAZAA's consultation with Tsuut'ina Nation elders, Zeidler, and Lighthouse. These guidelines provide our team with direction for all stages of the development, and they also contain the project's vision, values, and pillars that help to guide the entire process of development from conception to creation. We'll be using the term quite frequently, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody is a little familiar with what that means. So to start off today, I just want to ask everybody, and I'll also be opening up a poll here about how do you define sustainability and the theme for Earth Day, which is why we're having our sustainability panel discussion today about Restore the Earth. So I'm just going to launch this poll here, and all of our panelists will be able to vote as well. So please take a minute to vote on our poll, and this will help us lead this discussion that we'll be having today. Thank you, everybody. It's like the fastest I've ever seen a poll happen. Like, this is how voting should be done, I think. All right, almost done here. All right, I'm gonna end it now. So how do you define sustainability? 88% of our attendees and our panelists defined it as all of the above, which is avoid depletion of natural resources, meeting our own needs without compromising future generations, and also respecting the environment in our everyday practices. And just on that, I just wanted to ask a few of our panelists about what sustainability means to you, respectively. So I'll start with Jacob Crane today. What does sustainability mean to you, Jacob?
Daranis Dara, Size Jacob Crane. Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Crane, and I would think that what sustainability means to me is working with the land, making sure that the land and the water and the air is happy, but also, looking after the future generations to come. And so I think having a combination between the two, or working with the land, I think that's kind of what sustainability means to me as a Tsuut'ina. And so I also think that we have to continue making a positive social impact within the community as well. So that's that whole community development side of things. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Jacob. And then just moving on, Joanne, what does sustainability mean to you?
Well, I mean, sustainability means a lot of things, but directly for me, it means that we are good stewards of the earth, our financial resources, as well as we care for each other. So it's a three-pronged pillar approach where it's about the environment, it's about our economy, and it's also about socially about each of us. I mean, I have such awe for nature, the intricacies of how everything works, the beauty that it beholds, how it sustains us like nowhere else in the universe. And for this, I'm really thankful and grateful for our creator who has created it. So the theme, though, for this year, for Earth Day, is Restore the Earth. Now, when I think of Restore the Earth, I think, okay, restore it to what? To the Ice Age? I really hope we don't restore it to the Ice Age. And Earth is not really a static place, so it's never been static. So I look at sustainability as a lens for nurturing it. So just like you would for a child. So you want to care for the land, and you want to care for the people in the land and the resources that we have. We're part of such an amazing ecosystem, and in an ecosystem, there's always give and take. So I mean, at Lighthouse, our mission is to create regenerative built environments that nurture ecology and human health. So we really want all of these things in one place. And so that is how I define sustainability.
That was very well spoken. Thank you, Joanne. And James, what does sustainability mean to you?
Well, I just echo Jacob and Joanne, beautifully said. I think it's also about, and Joanne alluded to this, and Jacob too, is really enhancing communities and really bringing communities together. And I think this project really has this opportunity to really bring communities together in a very profound way. And I think over the last many years, we've been dealing with that in Canada, and I'm super excited about that opportunity. And also the opportunity of of working with the land and as Jacob said, with the water and the land, and really being, creating a kind of a light touch to this world, and to really offer kind of innovative ways of working in that way. So for me, sustainability is kind of a lifelong learning process as well. I think the world is changing rapidly and unexpectedly, as the last year kind of has shown, and it's but I'm still very hopeful and excited about the future and what we can do. And I think TAZAA is really a remarkable project to allow for some of that work to happen, and super excited about what the future will bring.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for all of that. So just moving forward today. So, and I apologize. I should have did a little bit more of introduction about what TAZAA is if people aren't familiar. So TAZAA is a master plan development that is happening out in Tsuut'ina Nation Alberta. And it came about with this partnership with Tsuut'ina Nation as well as Canderel, to basically, master plan this 3-village development on First Nation land. And it's one of a kind. It's one of the largest First Nation developments in all of North America. And one of the great things about, working on TAZAA and seeing the progress that happens here is the constant consultation that is happening with Tsuut'ina Nation on all of these aspects, from, designing the landscape to tenants coming on board. There's a lot of consultation that happens, and then there's a lot of thought that's put into it. And I think that's super important for people to understand that it's a large project. It doesn't happen overnight, and we have some great things coming up. So on that, just a question here for Jacob. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it means to Tsuut'ina Nation or Tsuut'ina people to have this connection to our natural world or our land, and more specifically, why we believe our land needs to be honored?
Yeah, I thought about this question for some time, and I think that as Indigenous people, we're spiritual human beings, and Tsuut'ina, we're the people, the real people, and we have a duty to protect and to honor the land, the air, the water, and that's kind of what we want to do, so that we can have the future generations to take part in that stewardship, kind of what Joanne had mentioned earlier, is being true stewards of the land and practicing stewardship. And this is one way to practice stewardship, is to work with the land. And I know we had talked about community and understanding, to me, Taza Development is a community initiative. It's a community-led project. We came together with our partners, and we decided that this is what we want for the future generations. And so that's making sure that we have trust there to take care of that part of the land. And so that's what we're doing here, is we're practicing that stewardship. And it's a sacred thing for Tsuut'ina people to always look about the land, think about the land. Those are always the conversations that happen. How are you taking care of the land? How are you being a steward of the land, and making sure that we're doing that in the right way? And so I believe here at TAZAA, that's what they're doing. And I think that's what the community wanted, and I think that's what the community is getting. And so it's that sacred connection that we have. And Kieran and a lot of the Indigenous folks that are on the line, right now, they can kind of understand that we're connected. This is when we walk into the trees, when we walk into the fields, we put our hands in the air and we feel that connection, that deep. It's within us. It's all around us. I don't want to sound like a Jedi or anything like that, but it's what connects all of us together. And so it's our job to make sure that we're doing our part. And so I hope that it's hard to explain that. It's very hard to explain that to folks that are from different nationalities. And so I do apologize, but that's the only thing that I can really, I guess in layman's terms, share with you. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, and just on that as well, it's also thinking about, our land and where we live, as, we see the planet like as Mother Earth. Like it's very much taken care of us as a people, and it's up to us to be those, like you said, be those stewardships of the land and advocate for her, and be able to stick up for her when we need to, and make sure that she's being taken care of the way that she has for us for thousands of years. So I appreciate just how you explain that, Jacob. Thank you. And just kind of going from there, going back to TAZAA as well, and what our vision is for the project. Dan, I just wanted to get your opinion of what is the vision for TAZAA and what makes this project so unique.
Yeah, the vision for TAZAA has always been rooted in authenticity, which is it's an easy word to throw around, but we look at this as realizing a true attempt and ability to get economic reconciliation by creating these authentic, very inclusive, and also the sustainability connection to the land. We've got to look at this project in its long-term priorities and the consequences that they have for future generations. So we've always looked at this as a more of a philosophical connection to make sure that we root all our decisions in that independence for the nation, the values that the Tsuut'ina Nation carry in terms of long-term connectivity to the land. So the complexity and interconnection between what we do in the real estate development side and how that actually plays back into the long-term stewardship of the Tsuut'ina Nation and this area within it. We've made some significant moves over the years to root the project deeper and deeper in connectivity to the land. We actually changed our entire development concept at one point with the help of Zeidler and so on, to basically look back at where the land or how the natural environment was formed in this area. And instead of transforming the land with the project, we looked at how we could put the project within the existing environment, the existing water courses, within the existing contours of the land. And it turned out really well for us. So I think the vision for this project has always tried to root itself in a holistic design process, trying to look towards the future in everything we do. It sounds simple, and it sounds like what everybody should do, but even in creating the design guidelines and the sustainability concept for other developments and developer partners to come in, we've actually rooted this in how does it connect back to all aspects of ESG? How does this connect back to a cultural expression in your planning? And also we're looking for ideas and future sustainability, and its implementation doesn't stay static. Constant evolution of and improvements to systems and ways to deliver better connection to reducing everything from carbon to water use. We've left the project uniquely very open to ideas, and our scoring sheet, for example, on sustainability isn't rigid. It's based on looking for the best that gives us a long-term ability to sustain the project and sustain the land. So it's a real philosophical change in my mind from what's going on in other areas. This is really looking at a long-term consequence approach.
Thank you. Caroline, did you want to add to that a little bit, just through the work that you've done? I know we kind of covered off a lot, but I'd really love to hear your perspective.
I think for me is, well, I echo what Dan just mentioned, and it's not as easy to do, and just to say it, it's just brings a lot of complexity, and I have to articulate different pieces between the financials, the long-term planning, and the fact that you also need to get things up and running and start building. So we're kind of learning also as we go. To me, it's the project is unique in scope and is unique in scale. In scale, because we're not talking about a building or a collection of building or a portfolio. We're looking at an entire neighborhood, if not even like multiple villages. So it has big impacts, but also it brings a lot of challenges in articulating all of these concepts at large scale. And in scope, it's because it's not just, if I can put it in air quotes, environmental impact, but it at the same level are trying to understand social impacts and governance at the same time. How do we, like, ethics and procurement and cultural aspects and long-term social impact are at the same level as mitigating our reducing our energy and our carbon and making sure the waste is being recycled properly. So it's huge scope of work, which, as Dan mentioned, every project should be, but not every project actually level or wants to do. So that it's really unique in scope and scale for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I'm just being mindful of time. This actually went by super fast. We have about 10 minutes or so for our discussion part, so I might have to skip some of these questions, guys, just so everybody has enough time to ask questions at the end. So this question actually came from one of our attendees, and I'm going to kind of open this up, but I'll lead the dialogue. And the question is, what design elements are important in the development to bring the First Nations culture, heritage, and history embodied in a commercial space and not be just another shopping center, but an experience and a destination for all to enjoy and experience? And James, I just wanted to get your perspective on that. As an architecture and working on some of the design aspects of that, I really want to hear, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the real challenge of working with these projects is really trying to understand the potential, because again, there's huge potential and great responsibility. I think that's one of the things that was really impressed on me as we kind of developed the design guidelines. We actually started the architecture prior to the design guidelines, but we quickly realized we didn't know what kind of ground we were standing on. We really didn't, to be honest, really didn't necessarily appreciate the depth of the issues. And so we spent, a good 6 months developing the design guidelines and really listening to stories. One of the first stories we had was with Tony Starlight, an elder who came into our office and spoke for about over an hour about the history of the Tsuut'ina people and over, from the Ice Age really up to the present day, and talked about, what Treaty 7 meant. So once we started that process, we internalized a lot of that discussions, and out of it came the architecture. And I think for us, the key thing was to allow for different voices in the architecture as well. So it's not just a static architecture. For Eagle Landing retail, we've incorporated areas for Tsuut'ina artists to be incorporated into the design, which I think will be really important to the overall kind of experience of the architecture. Also, just giving opportunities for spaces which will allow for pop-up commercial areas for Tsuut'ina community to use and to sell their goods as well. So and just making it very much a community. And I think that's we talk about community a lot, but we really wanted these spaces to be very much alive, and the sense of when you're there, you're with people, and that it's not car centric, it's really people centric. And I think that was really the critical thing for us as architects working on this.
Yeah, I think one of the things just to what Zeidler did and James and his team was very unique. When we look at the design guidelines, I see one question there. The design guidelines are available together at TAZAA.com. Go to the bottom, you can download them, public document. But one thing that we looked at is how do we express, the chief had always said to me, the expression of treaty and the expression of sovereign land and the sense of arrival onto the sovereign nation of Tsuut'ina. How do you portray that in architecture without making everything look very much beads and feathers, as nation members would say? And one thing that James and his team came up with in doing the design guidelines was we put Tsuut'ina stories in, critical Tsuut'ina stories. And what we've challenged the design community to do is read a story, find a theme within that story that you can then create your project around. And it doesn't have to just be the building looks like something Tsuut'ina. It can be right down to the deeper philosophy behind it. And I think we're creating architectural diversity through interpreting stories. These stories, the Starboy story, where the word TAZAA comes from, meaning something amazing is coming, comes out of a story. And I think that that's a unique thing to this project, is the ability for architects to actually dive into the cultural history and then express those stories in an architectural form, or even a social storm or form, or others. It's a very unique challenge. I think that worked really well, and that was Zeidler's idea. It was a great idea, and it works really well for us.
Yeah, and I think in that way it also challenges how people perceive First Nations developments, which is, you know, really great. It's making people envision what a First Nation development can look like, and I think that's also a really great aspect of how, you know, we're really thinking about the architecture and the design that happens here. So just wanted to open up another poll here. We actually implemented a new program. It's very new. It's called Bridging Connections. And I just wanted to, you know, ask everybody if, sorry, give me 1 second here. I wanted to see if everybody was kind of aware of it. I've opened up the polling here, and once I kind of know where everybody's at as far as what they're aware of for that program, I can explain a little bit more, and we can get into what the whole idea is behind the program itself.
There should be all yeses from the panel.
I'm hoping so too. All right.
You know, while we waited, the other thing with the architecture is just this real integration with landscape, and I think we've been challenging all the architects and designers, both internally and externally, to really engage the land in innovative ways and sustainable ways, and I think that's been really interesting as we begin to developing projects.
Yeah, and as part of the sustainability checklist was that they had to incorporate urban agriculture into the development. So if you think of a big box retail store, how do you incorporate urban agriculture into that landscape? But what it was being pulled from is the ability to have the potential for herbal plants and medicinal plants that can be grown in little planter like in the boxes or between car parking spaces, and the connection with that then to the nation to be able to then maybe harvest some of these elements and then also maintain the plants. So there's been a development around that within the nation and within the actual.
Yeah. We've had many questions about, for example, that happened at Costco. So many people say, how do you reconcile a Costco with lots of parking with your sustainable planning? And actually, Costco's buildings are LEED Gold or better. And in this case, they've also, anybody who goes to that Costco will find that the landscaping looks tremendously different than elsewhere. First of all, it's larger because it contains water management LID, and they've planted medicinal plants and others, including translations of what they are. So next time you're in the Costco parking lot, as spring comes and the flowers bloom, you'll find that there's a tremendous amount of plants in there that you can actually eat them, pick them, look at them. They're medicinal in its nature. So the connectivity, even on a retailer such as Costco, worked really well in our programming. We were able to accommodate that in a sustainable way, connecting to culture, connecting to land. Exactly what you said, Joanne, the urban agriculture. It was a good outcome.
It was, yeah. I'm just going to share the results here now. So 58% of people said they weren't aware that TAZAA is a program to connect tenants with Tsuut'ina artists, integrating culture and history into the built form. It's a very new program. It's called Bridging Connection. And what it aims to do is, because we have so many new tenants coming into the project, and we're constantly looking for these ways to design some of these buildings in a way that Dan mentioned is authentic. We developed this program where, as projects come up, kind of more as like the vertical development goes up, you see buildings and stuff, tenants want to connect with nation creators or artists and helping them collaborate on creative projects. We really wanted to bridge that connection between tenants and Tsuut'ina artists and make sure that tenants are aware of some of the creative talent that is within Tsuut'ina Nation, and then that they can build these connections between these people and work authentically on these designs coming up. And I guess to just kind of touch on that, Jacob, I just wanted to ask you, like, how do you think our people feel about the pace and scale of the development? I know it's kind of a hard thing to explain because we all don't have the same opinion. But on that as well, how do you see TAZAA incorporating the history and culture of Tsuut'ina people into the new developments? I'd really just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I think folks know what's going on. I think there's a lot of communication there. I think I don't think everybody fully understands the scale and how big it is. Like, this is a massive project, and it's really cool because, again, it goes back to consultation and being a community-led initiative. That's how I always will see TAZAA whenever somebody says, well, this, and I'm like, well, it's actually a community initiative. So yeah, community project. And so it's really interesting, it's really interesting to kind of see it all come together. But even within the name, something wonderful or something amazing is coming, that, it's tied to a story. It sits in a story. And even within the name, and when you're driving on 37th Street, you're entering Tsuut'ina Trail, it says it right there. And so it's all catering to Tsuut'ina people. And so when you have programs like the artist one that you just mentioned, it really involves the Tsuut'ina people in that process once again. And so I guess it's just continuing to make programs like that so that there's more community involvement there. And I think that's what TAZA's Development Corporation or partnership is doing right now. So good job. I think it's a great thing that's happening.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's definitely been something that's challenging, especially with COVID. Our people are so used to having community gatherings, and sometimes it's hard to have that outreach, not only to our nation, but also neighboring communities as well, who are seeing this development happen and want to know more about this. And that was kind of the whole inspiration behind having this panel series, was being able to present the information to people and have it accessible during these times when it's so hard to get together. And to just kind of end it off, Dan, you had mentioned that one of the things you're excited to be a part of is, TAZAA is such a transformative project. It focuses on economic reconciliation by creating authentic, inclusive, and sustainable development. And I know one of the things that we're all proud of as a development team, but I've also seen a lot of other people are really proud of, is the TAZAA water reservoir that's happening over in TAZAA Park. And I'll just bring up a picture of the concept, and just want to hear, James, Dan, your thoughts on what this means as far as like the sustainability aspect of the development, and also this consultation that happened with Tsuut'ina Nation to make this water reservoir look how it looks, and just kind of touch on that whole process there. So James, I don't know if you want to start the conversation off.
Well, I think first of all, I think water was a really defining feature of this project, and how to use water and work with water and preserve and conserve water as much as possible. So this water reservoir is important for the entire development and park. And it had to be built. And because of the waters coming in from the city of Calgary, the location was almost kind of set for us, which was really at the front door of the development site on coming off 37th. And so we really had to confront it, because typically water reservoirs are often kind of hidden away, out of sight, out of mind. There's often security issues, concerns. But when we looked at it, we saw this as a real opportunity to really kind of show the importance of water to the Tsuut'ina, and really highlight it and make sure that, when we are thinking about our water, we kind of understand where it's coming from, we understand the importance of it, So this project became an expression of that. And as I mentioned before, in going through the design guidelines and developing it, some of the stories that came out of it was from understanding the Tsuut'ina as beaver people, and we used the beaver dam actually as one of the inspirations for this project. So the shape of it, which is in plan, kind of a spiral, really reflected some of those imagery that we were looking at, and also the colors. We're thinking the Tsuut'ina powwow costumes, which are really kind of show lots of vibrancy, and so through that we kind of started developing and really showcase the reservoir as an important part, and it really kind of for us partly an iconic image for the reservoir as it integrates sustainable technologies like solar panels with the function of the reservoir to move this project towards a kind of a net zero project. So Dan, maybe you probably you were a big part of this design, so I want to have you.
And I'm trying to also answer Terry from CBC. I'm trying to answer his question at the same time, which is, honoring the environment. My background's actually environmental studies and geography, so I might be a different style of developer than most. And I find that this project has allowed us to actually take the freedoms to really work with the nation and the land, and actually bring to bear in an economic development a real focus on public realm environment. And I think that's where this reservoir came from. Typically, you would build a very inexpensive cinder block building with a chain link fence around it. And as we looked at what it meant, again, to express treaty, respect for the land, we know that water is, as many nations would say, water is life. And we said to ourselves, how can we then express or take to a level of importance the need for water and the need for us to distribute it safely, but also in a great expression of the environment. So in working with Zeidler and Heavy Industries and Design Workshop and Plant Studio, we started to say, why can't we apply, or we should apply, our own design guideline standard and our own attention to the stories, to the design of the reservoir. And we really dove deep into how the rivers have come through the nation over the years, how Calgary built around it. We're now together at TAZAA as a true thing, the city and the nation together supplying water to the project, and finding a real means to express that dedication to the importance of water to this project, and water in all its forms, not just the supply. We've actually done a huge LID, low impact development, focusing on storing water. Everybody who lives in Calgary knows we get water once a year, maybe in forms of April snow and other stuff, and then we go into a dry desert. We really wanted to focus on the importance of water to the environment. So this itself, in my mind, is the starting point, or the expression of how we're trying to honor environment, honor sustainability, and make sure that we also are being culturally aware of the buildings that we're building. And it worked out really well. It's economic. It's not any more expensive than anything else we would have built. And it looks awesome in my mind.
I think so too. Yeah, it's something that we're really proud of, and actually received an award. And I just think it's gonna be that more amazing to see once we actually see the structure coming up and people can see this vision come into fruition. So again, thank you guys so much for being part of our panel series today. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for this kind of conversation. Sustainability, like we didn't even hit half of our questions I think I had in my outline here. And,
Can I jump into one of these questions? Sorry, guys, I have to be, sometimes I can't help it, I'm the boss. But one thing that we're lucky on this project, talking about wood and canopies, I think I'm very excited about this. We are lucky being on the Tsuut'ina Nation that we fall under the National Building Code. And under the National Building Code, we've got a little more leeway on certain things we can do. One of the focuses we are working on very hard, as James knows, is heavy timber, recycled wood. If you looked at the water reservoir, all that wood that's going around it supporting the solar panels is recycled, reclaimed, reused. We're very excited at our ability in the context of National Building Code to focus on new building technologies that are moving forward, especially when it comes to heavy timber and wood buildings, where we're hopefully won't do the whole project out of it, but we're really, really keen on that.
Yeah, and I think the great thing too about having this conversation is, this can be something that we can continue to keep having. And I really look forward to continuing this conversation with everybody here and having our attendees hopefully join in future conversations as well, so they can begin to learn more about what we're doing here at Taza Development to make sure that we're honoring the land, honoring sustainability, and really pushing what that means as far as, when it comes to real estate development. I know it can be something a little bit tricky to navigate, but at this time I want to open it up. I know we had a few questions that have been answered, so if anybody else has any questions you have for any of our panelists, really want to open up the floor. And I'm just going to navigate through this here. So Terry from CBC, I believe, she asked, she said she's doing a radio story today and would like to ask a question for Jacob. She says it's a huge project. What vision do you have for the community in 10 to 20 years?
Great question. Great question. I think I see a real connection between the outside world and the Indigenous community forming at Taza Development. And, it's being showcased through what James had mentioned, the colors in the building and the designs through our powwow regalias. And so I think it's really important that that connection is continued and to support both communities, as well as creating job opportunities, scholarship opportunities, employment opportunities, internship opportunities, leadership training and development opportunities for our young people, so that they're equipped to go out into the world to really succeed. And so I'm always going to say the best, entrepreneurs, the best business-minded folks, the best, citizens, we're all going to be coming out of this area. And so I'm really impressed. And that's where I see, 20 years from now, 10, 20 years from now, where we're going. And so, yeah.
Yeah, we see Taza as a platform for other First Nations looking to participate in the economy. We're firm believers in the idea that economic reconciliation is open to all, and we feel we've created a platform that can be built on, not just by us, but other developers across the country and other nations. And we feel real strongly, as Jacob does, that in 10 years, this transformation will not only be for Tsuut'ina, but go across the entire country.
Some of the keywords we kind of threw in for sustainability for the project revolves around resilience, robustness, and low carbon. So all of these different concepts coming into play so that this project can sustain, with no pun intended, but it's really long-term vision and building in strength and in equity as well, so that it's diverse, it's for everyone, and it can evolve through time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I think that also answers some of the next question, which was, what are the biggest barriers? I think having such a big vision that is ever evolving it is a challenge to have on such a large scale, and it's a large scale project. So there's a lot of inputs and there's a lot of outputs and there's a lot of there's a lot of challenges with all of that, but there's also a lot of opportunity. And I think that's the thing that this project has done is to really look at that interconnectedness between all of these opportunities and take the step forward to be making this project such a place for these ecosystems to really evolve, and it is the connection between community and the nation, and it and the outside. So just everything is all melding all together really well, and I think that there will be constant barriers and challenges along the way, but I think the opportunity and openness of everybody to look at it as a team and as from all different angles is what helps to make this a
successful project for everybody.
We've built a team. I think that's the way we overcome the challenges. There's challenges on all fronts. We deal with everything from people believing, things built on nations are not built with quality when they are, all the way to financing. Financing infrastructure of this scale in the couple $100 million range isn't easy for anybody. But I think what we've found is over the 5 years that we've been working through some of this is we've built a team that's focused on solutions and looking at everything as an opportunity. And I think that helps us get this job done. Is the core team, some who aren't on right now but should be acknowledged, have all focused on solutions and looked at ways to help us overcome challenges with the term opportunity. And it's a great collective of people who are focused on our vision and goals.
Thank you, guys. And just one last question here before we end off today for James. It's Earth Day, and you've been working with the nation on this project when it comes to sustainability. What is something you've learned through all of this that really sticks with you moving forward?
So many things. I think I keep coming back to the story, and I mentioned about Tony Starlight talking about just the history and thinking about when I'm on the land. Often you go to an architectural site, you stand on the site and you're talking about the architecture, and you don't really feel the weight and the gravity of the land. And after that story, and when I go back to the sites and look over the Elbow River, you really feel, I feel like a different relationship to the land, and I have that kind of history and weight and responsibility, frankly, that we need to kind of make sure whatever we're doing at the very best that we can do it. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing that keeps coming back to me is those stories and really being really connected to the land in a very different way.
Awesome. Appreciate that, guys. And you guys have an incredible dialogue here. I think this is a great panel to have this conversation and just make sure that people are aware. There's so many points that we did not touch on today. From ESG to what we're doing on some of our projects to actually show you guys what we're doing from a sustainability aspect when it comes to designing the project. So apologize for that, but I think what this really made me realize is this is a bigger conversation. This is something that needs to be ongoing. It's something that I don't think this is going to be the last time we do this. And I'm actually really looking forward to continuing this discussion and hopefully having more people be part of this discussion and just ask those questions. So again, siyaskas o nadanistane. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you guys at the next one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Yes, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.